In this video, I'm going to go over how to use the scatter brush. And this can be really helpful for generating lots of objects really quickly, but each one has its own sort of distinct characteristics. So for example, if I have this hand icon here, if I do a selection of my icon and I go to my brushes panel, which is the one that looks like a little container with brushes, or window and brushes, and I make sure that I drag the little bar down at the bottom, this is going to open up a space for me to drag and drop my icon or any shape into the area to become a new scatter, art, or pattern brush. When I press OK, you'll see that I have a bunch of options for changing the properties of this brush. And I'm just going to call this hand so I know when I'm naming it. And I'm going to leave these the same for right now. What these say are, don't change the size, don't change the spacing between each one, don't change the scatter, the sort of degree to which it is off the axis of my line that I draw with my brush, and don't change the rotation. I'm going to move this off to the side, click off, go to my brush, and select the hand tool. And now, when I draw a line, you'll see that it's filled with all of these hands. And notice they're all facing the same direction that I made here with this one. If I delete this one, if I select this shape and I double click on my hand icon inside the brush, I can go back and change some of these properties. So for example, if I choose size and I go to random, now I can get a range for how this will operate. So this is going to make it, let's see, if I do 10%, some of them will be 10% of the original size, and this will be 100% of the original size. If I increase this to 300, you'll see that some are 300% of the original size, which is really large. So I'm going to switch this back to 100. And it's going to give us a range. When I press OK, it's going to ask, do I want to apply that change to the strokes that I've already made? And since I do want to update it, I'm going to press Apply to Strokes. Now you see that they have equal spacing between each one. If I double click on this again and I choose random spacing and I vary it so it's going to go less, so it's going to decrease the amount of spacing between each one and randomize it. And if I increase the spacing this way, you'll see that some are really close and some are much more farther away, right? This allows you to have a little bit more variation. Secondly, if I choose random with fixed, this is the line that is currently on. So let's actually keep this at fixed and say, okay, apply strokes. This is the line on which the shape is created, right? Because I drew a line with my brush. If I double click again and I go to scatter and random and I choose a percentage off, notice that the negative percentage is going to go off down to the bottom of the line, and this is going to go above. And so if you do a range, and let's just do like 200% off, and then this is going to be in negative 200 off. And you see that some are above and some are below, and they're happening randomly. So this way you get a little bit more of an option. And finally, if I go to random rotation, this is going to give me either negative degrees or positive degrees. So if I didn't want this to ever go like turning down, I would want to give myself between 90, negative 90, and 90. And that way it would never face the bottom. If I did want it to go all the way down, right, then I can say from positive 180 to 180. And then I say, okay. And I'm going to apply to strokes. So now I've got all of these sort of going at different angles. And if I go back to my brush and I draw a lot more, right? Now I've got something that's way more interesting, and I can create several different types of hands going across this page, which is pretty cool. If I want to be able to access any of these individual parts, what I have to do is, I'm just gonna go back a couple steps. What I have to do is go to Object and Expand Appearance. And now each of those are their own separate shapes. So then I can double click to go into isolation mode, and I can make this one really big. I could have this one turned down. click out or press escape to get out of this. And now they're all still a group, and I've got my one that is a little bit different. The last thing is if I want to change the color, you'll see if I double click on the icon here, if I go to colorization method, there's a light bulb here, which allows me to choose my specific color. And there's a couple of different options, and it's really helpful to look through and choose the colorization method that you want. I'm going to choose hue shift because I want to change the entire color. And notice the entire color is changed based on the stroke color, not the fill. So here I'm going to go to hue shift, and my key color is this dominant pink color. And now if I select my shape and I go to my stroke panel, I should be able to change it here. And let's actually double check that that's stuck. I feel like it might not have. There we go. Okay. So now you'll see that those, if I change this again, they'll all change with it. I'm not exactly sure why some of these aren't changing, but maybe those were separate from before. That's kind of interesting. So again, if I draw this out, select my hand tool, if I select the shape, double click, and I change the color, let's go something very different, they'll all change. So you might want to, reselect it and change it again. I think there's it's a little bit of lag or latency there. But those are the methods for working with a scatter brush.